The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the show. In the last month or so, we've talked about two different public mass shootings. Of course, there was the Batman Dark Knight Rises shooting in Aurora, Colorado, and then we also had the Sikh shooting in Wisconsin. We now have a third shooting, and the context, this isn't about just reporting the fact of what happened, although I'll tell you about them because it does provide important context. It's really about thinking about how these things are being reported in the media, and we've already seen differences in terms of the reporting between the Dark Knight incident and the Sikh incident, so to speak, Lewis. The details with this are that the shooter's name, Thomas Kafal, 35 years old, of College Station, Texas. This happened just outside the Texas A&M campus. This man was facing eviction. He opened fire on police officers and bystanders near the Texas A&M campus. He killed 2. He wounded 4. He was eventually shot to death by police. Now, his mom said, the minute I saw the TV, I knew it was him. I've been that worried about him, indicating that for years he's been having problems with mental health, whatever it is that means. So, Lewis, right away, we get this, right away we're starting to build the narrative of, well, not lone gunmen in this case, but mentally ill, which is another very common theme that we see when discussing white terrorists particularly, and also American, I guess we would consider American, even though you could be, of course, Muslim and American, but I guess maybe it's the term, what term am I really looking for? What am I trying to say? White, non-accent when they speak English, Christian Americans. I mean, I don't know. You know the
white English-speaking Christian Americans.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we don't need to go through the details of the shooting. Like I said, 2 dead, 4 wounded, and eventually the shooter was shot by police. There's a Facebook page which belongs to Thomas Kafal, which features a number of pictures of assault rifles, again indicating this kind of anything from fanaticism to obsession with firearms, including a Czech version of the AK-47. On that same page, Kafal calls himself divorced and says that he is Christian, okay? Now, in terms of who his inspirational people are, the profile lists Carlos Hathcock and Vasily Zaitsev, both snipers, Lewis. Certainly disturbing.
Yes.
So, again, let's take a step back here. Mentally ill. That certainly outweighs the importance of being Christian, I'm sure, particularly in the eyes of the mainstream media and particularly the conservative media, but not if he were Muslim. We know that if Thomas Kafal were Muslim, and actually, interestingly enough, if Thomas Kafal were a Sikh who wore a turban, even though that has absolutely nothing to do with the Muslim religion, the story about his faith, his religion, his background would be the forefront. It would be the #1 focus, particularly on media outlets like Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, etc. However, this is an individual who is a self-proclaimed Christian, and the focus instantly overnight, and it's only been about 24 hours here, I believe. We still have time to observe this further, but so far the focus has been he was mentally ill, and that's really the thing. Everything else doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if he was a gun fanatic. It doesn't matter if he was a Christian. Really, what defines this man is that he's a lone, mentally ill guy, unpredictable only because of the mental illness.
Right. It's going to take a little while to learn his motivations, if there were any. But I mean, if there was no clear motivation.
Well, it seems to be he was getting evicted, and that may have pushed him over the edge. But again, right. Not everybody who gets pushed over the edge stress-wise from an eviction, #1, owns guns, all of the guns this guy is obsessed with, and decides to use them on innocent people.
Right, definitely an act of terrorism, but I mean, very clear motivation with the Sikh shooting, right? Unsure about the movie theater shooting. I mean, motivation does play a big role, I think, when you're talking about defining someone as a terrorist.
Or whether something is or isn't a hate crime.
Right.
Another week, another mentally unstable, gun nut extremist of some flavor. I'm almost starting to become desensitized to this type of thing. I have to admit. Now I find myself glancing. It's hard to even really explain it, but I kind of glance over the story, and my physical and mental reaction seems to be dulled with every single one of these, where it's like, when is the next one? We just expect it. It's almost part of the culture now that there are these shootings. Do either of you guys feel the same way? Natan, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, you become desensitized when you watch TV every day, when you look at news, and it happens so frequently that you almost start to. We talked about this last week. You start to lose track of which killer was responsible for which shooting, how many victims, where it was, which just proves how desensitized we are to it.
Yeah, and we talk about how many of these stories actually become national, right? We live right next to a city where there's a gun going off every day, literally every day, usually multiple guns. You've got places like Detroit, Chicago, who knows how many cities. I mean, it's American culture, unfortunately.
Do you think that we're seeing some level of contagion in the back of people's minds where, because of the shootings that are in the media, when things get bad for one, they say, you know, maybe shooting my way out of my problem is on the table and some level of contagion. We don't have to address it. I want to move on, but just something to think about.